Lisa Freeman, and I was born here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. As soon as I graduated from high school, I came back to my extended family, and they live in Coraopolis and Moon Township area. And that's where I spent most of my young adulthood. My grandparents, my uncles, my aunts, and my cousins. Then I kind of ventured out on my own. I bought a house, I went to college, graduated, bought a house in Manchester, and that's where I am today. Coraopolis was a confined, small little town, and the number of black people was a small, confined relationship. There were 3 black churches and everybody knew each other. All my aunts, uncles, they all went to the same school. All the next generation, we all knew each other. We were just one big family. I kind of moved from Coraopolis up a hill, and that's Moon Township. Moon Township is predominantly white, but there's a small pocket of a very compacted, low-income area, and at that time it was majority black. And that's where all the black community lived in a predominantly white area. That's where violence was, that's where drugs was, that's where poverty was. We all were poor, and that's where all the dysfunction was. When I moved to Manchester, I bought a condemned home from the city and put it back together. We heard gunshots at least daily, maybe a few times a day. So that's something I never heard in Moon Township. Like, no one's addressing the gunshots, and it was hard for us to understand. Like, everybody's used to hearing this. No one was calling 911. Then the shot spotter, I kind of demanded that from our local council member, and they did install that. We had drug dealing in the back of our house, and my neighbor and we addressed that, and they moved. It took a whole lot of community or strong voices in the community to move some of the things you didn't want too close around you. I have a family member. My uncle is a very brilliant man. He has a college degree. He was an athlete in college and high school. He was a community hero. And then he delved into recreational drugs. And he stayed away from the family for a long time. He went to the East Coast or the West Coast, cut off all communication, and then he sort of migrated back to the family. I think he realized when your siblings start dying, you're estranged from your family, you have to need to come home. And that's when he came back to Coraopolis. That's where my late grandmother's, the family house is. And he was in addiction then. And he was a con man, fast talker, slick, conniving. You would believe everything he would say. Some traits started where my aunt was living at that time. He would use her as an emergency contact. And then people started calling her, well, do you know where so-and-so is? He has not reported in. And they started calling her, and my aunt had all this worry about him. He kind of went through the family, but it was my aunt first, and then his younger sister, my second aunt. They kind of kept an eye on him, but they would know where he is at all times. So then I'm the oldest of the next generation, and they think of me as the younger sister. And so it went down the line, and then he just showed up. And he's like, can I help you? And I have an urban farm. And he was a very important piece, very instrumental in my little farm that has grown into a big thing. And he, I need to keep busy. And he would be out there from morning until noon, working like a mule and sweating. And he said that would help him in his recovery, just being healthy or active and sweating and keeping his mind off of things and being tired. And I would sort of pay him, don't pay me, I'm your uncle, I'm here to help you. And then it dwelled into, oh, how much money is this? And that's not enough. For all this work I'm doing, that's not enough. People in the community, they were watching. He was a hard worker. They were watching and noticing how beautiful he kept my area. And then he had a side hustle. People were like, oh, can you cut my grass? Can you help me with this? And then he'd disappear. And then people would come looking at me. And I'm like, where's your uncle at? People were calling me. I have nothing to do with that. I gave him money. I paid him in advance. It became very contentious with him, his hustles, and my reputation, and his addiction. That's my uncle. And I'm his oldest niece. We were very close. So I got to know some of his triggers and what to look for. And with him, there was a look that came upon him, an agitation, being very short and snappy. He's pushing. I need money. I gotta hurry. Okay, that's when we need to stop what we're doing because this isn't gonna work. And that gave me a clue like, oh, here we go. And then that became a safeguard for me. Like, look at his face. You can tell he's not your uncle. This is someone else. You have to separate yourself from the addiction. He loves me and I love him, but I do not like the person who's in addiction. Understand that you can't love them out of addiction, and it's hard to stop loving that person, but you're not stopping. That person is still in there. You're just not tolerating the addiction, that side of the person. It's the drug. And so unless you come here as my uncle, then I can't do it. I can't tolerate you or will not tolerate you. And you have to get to that point where you say no. And you're not wrong for just saying no. You're not wrong. I would say it's very important to know it's okay to feel tired. You have to be able to say, I'm tired and I need help. Because people who've been dealing with people in addiction, you're tired. Dragged around on the ground tired. It's not working. It hasn't worked for us, what we've needed. Some things need to change, and you need some kind of support. They themselves don't have the power to cure someone in addiction. Don't take that on yourself as it's your problem. People have to recognize it's okay to be tired, but you have to take care of yourself.